Everybody understand that? Thank you. Let the record reflect they've all acknowledged they understood my clarification of my clarification. Then we are ready for the state to call your next witness.
Thank you, Judge. All right, Mr. Hudnall, you've previously been placed under oath, and we're
Yes,
back. Just to kind of refresh everybody where we were, you were arrested for a violation of probation on May the 4th of 2018.
Yes, sir.
And went to jail, and I think you testified you stayed there how many months?
10 months.
All right, 10 months. Now, before that, before you went to jail on May 4th, you said you had multiple times an acquaintance with the defendant, Mr. Wiggins.
Yes, sir.
And did you observe a defendant or a pistol in the defendant's lap?
Yes, sir.
And did you tell the defendant to be careful driving around Dixon with a pistol in his lap?
Yes, sir.
And what was his response when you told him that?
If anybody tries to arrest me, I'll smoke their ass.
All right, thank you. I'll pass the witness.
Mr. Hopkins, any questions?
Mr. Hudnall, when you observed that pistol and you said you heard this statement from Mr. Wiggins, was anyone else present?
Yes, his girlfriend,
Who was that?
Erica. I never talked to her.
Erica Castro Miles?
Mm-hmm.
And was she present
Yes, sir.
at the location, and do you know if she heard that statement?
She was in the passenger seat right beside him.
Okay. Now, you stated a little earlier this morning that as soon as you saw this incident involving the shooting of Sergeant Baker, this statement just immediately popped into your mind.
Yeah.
And so you then immediately contacted law enforcement to let them know about that statement.
Yes.
So immediately means what to you? Like as soon as you thought of it, you contacted them and told them about it?
I really can't tell you. It was 3 years ago.
Okay. Well,
It could have been a day. It could have been that week.
So your testimony today is that within a week of you seeing this on television, and you would have seen it on television the same time it happened, correct?
I don't know. They play TVs different times in jail.
Okay.
Like it might get privileged, might not.
Okay.
I just remember seeing it, and then I went and got on the kiosk.
And you ran down to the kiosk and you sent that off?
I didn't run down. It's in the
Well-
pod with you.
Okay. So do you think you saw it within a few days of it happening?
I couldn't tell you.
Did you see it within a few weeks of it happening?
I couldn't tell you.
Did
I
you
don't
see-
remember the exact date.
Did you see it within a few months?
I've seen it within a month, yeah.
Okay. So within a month of it happening, you had contacted the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and they were talking to you about this?
Yes.
Okay. Could I have just a moment, Your Honor? Well, Mr. Hudnall, if, for example, Agent Neese, who's seated here at the table, did a report, and he said that you didn't contact them until November 23rd, would that surprise you?
No, I told you I don't remember.
Okay.
I just assumed it was within a month.
Okay. So it could have been 5 months later after you've been sitting in jail when you decided to contact law enforcement.
It could have been.
Okay. And that would have been after you got indicted August of 2018 for the charges you later got community corrections for.
No, I didn't get community corrections for that. I was on community corrections violation.
Okay.
I signed up for drug court. I was already accepted into it before any of this ever happened.
Okay. But you did get indicted in August 21st of 2018 for,
Right.
let's see, possessing a firearm, for aggravated burglary,
No.
and count 3.
I only got charged with the, I don't know what they charged me with, but I got convicted of the possession of a firearm.
Okay. Do you remember doing a plea agreement in your case that set out what you were actually pleading guilty to?
I don't recall. I said it's been a couple years.
Can I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
See if you recall this document, Mr. Hudnall. Is that your signature at the bottom of that?
Mm-hmm.
What is that document?
Plea of guilty
By whom?
by me.
To what charges?
for aggravated burglary, theft, and possession of a firearm.
So you did plead guilty to aggravated burglary?
I guess, but it wasn't a burglary.
Okay, but you pled guilty to it,
I guess I did.
okay? And that is your signature.
Yes.
And when is that dated?
I don't know. I can't see a date on it.
Can I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Scribbled down there at the bottom.
It appears to be January 18th of 2019 there. Do you see that?
All right.
Is that the date that you signed it?
I guess that's fine. My signature.
Plead this into evidence, Your Honor.
What's the number?
203.
Exhibit 203.
Take a look at this document. You recognize this?
I don't.
Does it appear to be an indictment naming you in those charges that you pled guilty to in January of 2019?
Yeah.
And it charges you with the offenses that we just discussed?
Yeah.
And what was the date that indictment was filed? It's up at the top.
August 21st,
2018?
2018.
Your Honor, I'd move that into evidence if there's no objection.
Motion exhibit 204.
So you went to jail May 4th of 2018 on a community corrections violation, is that correct?
Correct.
And you saw this, according to you, on the news within a month or so of it happening. So that would be June of 2018, correct?
Correct.
You did not notify law enforcement in June of 2018 about this statement.
Okay, I was mistaken on the date.
You didn't notify law enforcement July of 2018 about the date, correct?
I don't know the exact date, so I can't tell you.
Do you disagree with, would you disagree if Agent Neese said it was November 23rd of 2019?
No, because I said I didn't remember.
Okay. But you were indicted in August, you remember that, right?
Yeah.
You went to court for that,
Correct.
had several court appearances for that,
Correct.
all right? And you knew you were facing a lot of time for those charges.
I had already been accepted into a program before I ever done the statement, so I'd already signed up for drug court and been accepted into drug court.
Well, when did you sign up for that?
There again, I don't know the dates, but I was accepted into drug court before I ever said anything about this case.
Which is why when you talked to the law enforcement, you repeatedly asked them, did you not, what are they going to do to help me since I'm giving them this information?
I did ask, yeah, correct.
But why did you need help if you already had everything worked out?
I don't know. I can't tell you.
Redirect.
Mr. Hudnall, you've pled guilty to several cases, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And you entered the drug court program.
Yes, sir.
You've acknowledged your guilt down the line.
Yes, sir.
You've accepted the responsibility and the consequences for your actions.
Yes, sir.
Are you still part of the drug court program?
I graduated last year.
You graduated successfully?
Yes, sir.
Have you been in any more trouble?
No, sir.
Okay. Is everything you've said here today truthful?
Yes, sir.
Are your statements and memory about what the defendant said, is that truthful?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Hudnall. You may step down. You're released from your subpoena and may go about your business. State may call your next witness.
State calls Nathan Neese.
Agent Neese, if you'll step forward.
Do you solemnly swear upon the testimony you give in this case be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Would you state your full name for the court, please?
Nathan Lee Neese,
And spell-
Nathanneese.
Thank you very much. Agent Neese, you are employed with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation,
That's correct.
and how long have you been employed there?
I've been with the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation since February the 16th of 2016.
Thank you. And what is your current position?
My current position is I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the Middle Criminal Investigations Division.
And can you give the jury just kind of a background of what that position entails?
So my position currently is I supervise several agents for several counties in the Middle Tennessee District. So from the 23rd Judicial District, which is what we're in at the Kentucky line, all the way down to the Alabama line in the 22nd Judicial District, and then over to the Interstate 65 that runs north and south through the middle of Middle Tennessee, several counties and several agents in that area.
Thank you. And Agent Neese, prior to you being promoted to the Assistant Special Agent in charge, what was your position with TBI?
I was assigned as a Special Agent Criminal Investigator for the Middle Criminal Investigation Division.
And were you assigned to investigate this case against Stephen Wiggins?
I was.
And Agent Neese, a little bit more about your background. Did you have law enforcement experience prior to being hired by the TBI?
I did.
And what was that experience?
So prior to my TBI service, I had 16 years of law enforcement experience with the Lawrence County Sheriff's Department and the Lawrenceburg Police Department. I served in roles such as a deputy sheriff, a school resource officer, criminal investigator, patrol sergeant, patrol lieutenant, and then a lieutenant over the Criminal Investigations Division is the final position I held at the local agency before moving on to TBI.
Okay, thank you. Agent Neese, just kind of a little bit of context on where we are in the case so far. You've been in the courtroom the entire time.
Yes, sir.
We began the case talking about an incident at the Midtown Inn and Suite in Kingston Springs, Tennessee. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Can you give the jury kind of an overview of where Kingston Springs, Tennessee is in relation to Dixon and Dixon County?
Yes, sir. So from here in Charlotte, we would most likely travel to Dixon to get on Interstate 40 and then travel east to Kingston Springs, which is in a neighboring county in Cheatham County. And so to give it in relation to exits, I believe the Dixon exit is exit 172 and the Kingston Springs exit is 188.
Thank you. So Kingston Springs, Tennessee is located, I think you testified, at the 188 exit mile marker
I believe that's correct, yes.
on
sir.
Interstate 40.
Yes, sir.
And how close is the Midtown Inn and Suite to the on and off ramp of I-40 at the 188 exit?
It's extremely close. As soon as you exit off either way, you would only travel a very short distance to that Midtown Inn and Suites.
Okay. And if you were to get on the interstate at the 188 exit, Kingston Springs, and travel west to the city of Dixon, what would be the most direct route?
The most direct route would be to get, just come directly out of the hotel parking lot, take a right, and then take a right onto the on-ramp to I-40, and then travel to Dixon on I-40 to the exit 172.
Okay. And how many miles is that?
I believe it's approximately 16 miles between those two exits.
Okay. And Cheatham County, Kingston Springs is the adjoining county to Dixon County, is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. Do you know how far it is from Kingston Springs, the 188 mile marker, to the incident location of Tidwell Switch and Sam Vineyard?
I believe it's approximately 21 miles from the exit to the intersection of Tidwell Switch and Sam Vineyard.
Okay. Now, we've also put on some testimony and proof regarding 3 separate incident or locations in this case. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Actually 4 if you talk about Kingston Springs, but let's exclude the Midtown Inn and Suite incident and talk specifically about Dixon County.
Okay.
What are the 3 locations we've discussed or the proof is put on?
So we've discussed a scene at Tidwell Switch and Sam Vineyard, and then going in chronological order, we would go to the Bear Creek Valley Road incident scene, and then the arrest location on Stinson Road.
Thank you. Agent, can you identify this map, please?
Yes, this is an aerial view of, a pretty good aerial view of all three incident locations.
Okay. And does the photograph that I've handed you reflect it on the screen?
It is.
And let's just talk briefly to put in context, the overlay of where everything is. Let me start at this point right here. What intersection is this?
That's the intersection of Tidwell Switch and Sam Vineyard.
Okay? And let me go to the right of the screen. What is this?
That is the Bear Creek Valley Road incident scene where Unit 500 for Sergeant Baker was located.
And I'll go to the middle of the screen. What's this?
That is the arrest location of Stephen Wiggins at Stinson Road at Bear Creek.
Now, Agent, in the course of this investigation, did you take note of the mileage or area covered in these three locations?
I did.
And can you tell us the distance from the Tidwell Switch, Sam Vineyard incident site to the Bear Creek Valley?
That distance is approximately, it's just a little over 3 miles.
A little over 3 miles?
Yes, sir.
And what about from Bear Creek Valley to the location where the defendant was arrested on Stinson Road?
I believe approximately by road, it would be 2 miles.
If you went by road?
If you went by road, yes, sir.
And looking at this map that we have you've created here, what is the red line demonstrating?
So it's the path from Tidwell Switch to Bear Creek Valley, and then where the Sergeant Baker's body was found.
And generally, was it created using some of the GPS coordinates from Unit 500?
Yes, sir.
All right. And Agent Neese, also, we've heard testimony about a perimeter being set up for the manhunt. Do you know roughly how many square miles the perimeter and manhunt encompassed?
I know in this area it was it's approximately 5 miles. So we tried to cover a 5-mile area. There were people spread out everywhere looking and trying to locate the subject who had did this. And so there was a constant flow of traffic of law enforcement from the command posts that were set up at Highway 46, traveling into this area and traveling these roads, just as Trooper Judd testified to regarding getting assignments of traveling roads and covering that area. There were also people in the woods, you know, tracking and doing certain things and following leads that we had received through our virtual command center.
And Agent Neese, did you verify that each of these locations occurred or happened in Dixon County, Tennessee?
Yes, sir, I did.
I'll move the map as the next exhibit, please.
205.
We're going to cover several things in your testimony, but I want to make a few quick identification of some evidence that was collected, okay?
Okay.
Let's talk first about the Tidwell Switch and Sam Vineyard Road. That
Yes,
was
sir.
the location of the Saturn vehicle, is that correct?
That's correct.
All right. Can you remember how many shell casings, and when I say shell casings, I mean fired shell casings, were recovered from that site?
From that site on the roadway, we had 4 shell casings that were recovered.
Okay. And from inside the car?
And then from inside the car, once it was processed at the lab, there were 3 fired cartridge casing or shell casings found inside the vehicle.
And just to distinguish, we heard some testimony yesterday from the lab that of a 4th casing from within the car, but had that the 4th one been fired?
That's correct. It was found in the glove box, and it was an unfired cartridge case.
Thank you. I also want to talk a little bit more about the Saturn, the vehicle that we've heard so much discussion about.
Yes, sir.
Did you actually do a test on the vehicle to determine the working condition of the driver's side door?
I did.
And was that test recorded?
It was.
And who did the recording?
I video recorded it.
All right. And I'm going to ask that a copy of that recording be brought up on the screen.
Today's date is June the 7th, 2018. Time on hand is 3:20 p.m. The Special Agent Nathan Neese, Special Agent Brant Holt with mid-CID showing operation and functionality of the driver's door of a 90s model Saturn 4-door belonging to Erica and Castro Miles.
Door's locked, shut the door. Door will not open. Manual unlock. Door opens. Back passenger door. Door's locked. Door lock is broken. The lock position and the unlock position, door will not open. Back passenger door is unlocked and opens. Front passenger door is unlocked and is open. Hitting the lock button. Lock button. Closing rear passenger door. Locked. Unlocking from the interior, opening from the interior. Door is locked. Interior will not open. Door is unlocked from interior. Passenger door opens.
Time on hand is approximately 3:23 p.m. The end of video.
Move a copy of the videos to the next exhibit, please.
All right.
Exhibit 206.
Agent Neese, was the driver's side front door in proper working condition?
It was.
Were the locks on the driver's side front door in proper working condition?
They were.
Did we observe Agent Holt operating the door from the inside and the outside and the locks, and they all worked properly?
We did.
If it were put forth that the front door was not working properly, would that be the truth or a lie?
That's a lie.
Thank you. Let's go next briefly to the Bear Creek Valley, where the Ford Interceptor, the Sergeant Baker's vehicle, Unit 500, was recovered.
Yes, sir.
Do you know in your investigation the approximate value of a police vehicle with the equipment and the basic package put together?
You're probably looking at approximately $41,000 for that vehicle.
And of course, when you have that value, that's talking about the vehicle and the police emergency lights, sirens, radio equipment added in?
That's correct.
All right. And also recovered from underneath the hood of Unit 500 was the Glock 9mm with a light attached. What's the approximate value of that weapon?
Probably looking for the gun and the light from a department. It's probably around $600.
Okay, thank you. Agent Neese, as the lead on this case, did you take possession of the body camera video that was worn by Sergeant Baker on May 2018?
Yes, sir, I did.
And did you provide a copy of that to our office to bring to this trial?
Yes, sir, I did.
Your Honor, at this time, we're going to play the body cam video. It does have graphic.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I indicated to you before, sometime during this trial, you're going to necessarily have to see evidence that may be somewhat upsetting or disturbing. This is actual body cam footage, and for that reason, want to just prepare yourself for that. So.
Judge, and we need to approach just briefly from that off the record.
Dixon 500. Tag him out with his boy Robert Young 013. Hang on. What's that, your driver's license number?
No,
All right, wait a minute. Go ahead. Go ahead. Here's Jim one. I can copy. I'm at the corner of Sam Vineyard and Tidwell Street. Get out of the car. Keep your hands up here, Rosie, and get out of the damn car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Get out of the car. Unlock the damn door. Unlock the door right now. Open it. Open it.
I'm trying. Hang on, I got to do your voice. Sorry, sir.
Open the door.
I'm trying. Look, I got to speak out.
Open the door.
I know, I got to speak out.
Chris, where you at?
I'm trying, bro.
Get it.
I'm trying.
Open the door.
The door's fucked up.
Open the door.
It's fucked up door, okay? I'm trying.
You keep your hands on Sam.
What's wrong, sir? What's wrong?
I'll explain to you in a minute. Get out of the car. Get out of the car.
I'm trying. Look, I'm not going
Keep your hands up on the dash on Sam.
It takes a pair of pliers most of the time to do this.
Where's your pliers?
Right here.
Get them.
Okay?
Get them. Get them. You're fine. You're good.
Slow down, man.
You're good. Come on. All right, look, this is what we're gonna do. Was that door on the passenger side open?
Yeah.
All right. You put your hand up there on the steering wheel.
Just a little.
You're fine. All right. Can you climb out the passenger side?
I can.
Can you climb out the passenger side?
Hold on.
Just stay right there. Keep your put your hands on the steering wheel. Just stay right there. Don't get out of here.
Hey, Janice, and we're going to play bits and pieces of this, but coming up, are you able to hear a phone ringing?
Yes,
You have to listen carefully for it.
very carefully.
And what ringtone do you?
Sounds like a duck.
And about what time does that happen?
I think it's around 16-minute mark, somewhere around in there.
And for the record, we have it paused at 15 minutes and 50 seconds, so we should start listening for the duck call.
Yes, sir.
All right.
It's now.
Hey, Janice, did you hear that quack quack?
I did.
That's what I thought I heard, but what did you hear?
I heard this duck call.
Okay. And after the ringtone, after reviewing the body cam, can you hear the defendant talking on the phone, or what appears to be him talking on the phone?
You can.
At about what time?
It's shortly after the phone ring, maybe the 16:28 mark, somewhere around in there,
Okay.
I believe.
Go ahead. Agent Neese, it's kind of hard to hear with the muffled background and the vehicle on the road conditions and the field.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to now move forward to 24 minutes and 14 seconds. And do you know what can be heard by the defendant at this point? And if not, that's okay, we'll play it.
I don't remember exactly at this mark,
That's
but
fine.
I know there's still communication.
Back, go back 5 seconds. That's fine. Go ahead.
White male. You want a copy? Like this, do white male.
Agent Neese, did you hear that interchange with dispatch?
I did.
And what was said?
Mr. Wiggins said on the radio he had one in custody, and then dispatch responded with acknowledging that they had received his transmission of one in custody.
Did he say one in custody, white male?
Yes, he
And that
did.
and that was the defendant responding to dispatch.
That's correct.
Okay. So, the body camera is lengthy. Are we able to, in viewing it all, is there a lot of down screen like this or black screen?
It's a lot like this for several minutes.
Later on, can we see more?
Yes, sir.
What happens later on in the body cam?
You'll start seeing Sergeant Baker's body move. So at that point, he's being manipulated and he's moving around in the back seat.
And at some point, did the investigation establish that Sergeant Baker was set on fire, or the vehicle was set on fire?
That's correct. You'll see in the body cam after the black screen and the camera gets moved where there's enough light, ambient light to shine in to see, and you can start to see the flames and the reflection of Sergeant Baker's arm.
Okay. And if I could move us to 34 minutes and 40 seconds. And Agent Neese, can you describe what we just witnessed?
We just witnessed Sergeant Baker's body moving around, being manipulated. Then you seen another person's arm come in with some tattoos on it.
Okay. And is Sergeant Baker's body still in the rear seat of the Unit 500 at this point?
It is.
Okay. If you'd move us to 40 minutes, please.
Coming off scene here at Will, I'll be around maybe central to relay the timeline. Roger. Well, actually, all of your traffic's sitting out in the fairly good on.
So what we're seeing is you can see Sergeant Baker's arm, and you can see the reflection of the flames and hear the audible crackling of the fire and the audible noises that the fire is making as it's trying to continue to burn.
Thank you. I don't want to have to replay a lot of this, but I do want to ask you some questions from the beginning. So if you could turn the lights back on, please. In listening to the full body camera, what did you, when asked for identification, what did the defendant give to Sergeant Baker?
He gave a social security number that does not belong to him, but does belong to a real person.
Okay, so it was a real social security number to a human being in the state of Tennessee.
That's correct.
But it did not belong to the defendant.
That's correct.
When Sergeant Baker initially approaches the vehicle, do you remember what occurs on his initial approach?
As soon as he's walking up, you can hear Sergeant Baker to tell someone to stay in the car, to just stay in the car.
Okay. Then what happens?
He makes contact and asks him, what are you doing out here? Why are you here? What's the problem?
Okay. At some point, did Sergeant Baker go to the rear of the vehicle and do a license plate check?
He did.
And is there a name for that when you call it in to dispatch to run a check?
The 10 codes that I'm used to, that I know as a law enforcement officer, you can run a 1028, which is a registration check. Then you might run what we call a 1029, which is a warrants or stolen check for that same license plate number.
Okay. At this point in time, you observed Sergeant Baker move to the rear of the car and call in Boy Robert Young 013.
Yes, I did.
Was that the license plate number on the vehicle?
It is.
At that point in time, had Sergeant Baker removed his weapon from his holster?
He had not.
Okay. At some point, does Sergeant Baker remove his weapon?
He does.
And after reviewing the video, do you know why he did that?
So when he was informed, the first transmission you can hear that dispatch responds to him when dispatch asks him if he's 1012, to me that means, are you near a person that can hear the radio traffic that you're about to receive? They do that for a number of reasons, and if the person's wanted or if it's a stolen vehicle, they know that the situation that the officer's in is about to change, because it's a more serious situation, because we have a felony issue that's happened. A stolen vehicle is the amount of the vehicle makes it a felony, and so then you would go into what we would call a felony stop or a felony encounter with the subject in the car.
And is that police procedure to do so?
It is.
And is that what Sergeant Baker did?
He did. Didn't immediately, but he did move around back to the driver's door, and that's when he drew his sidearm from his holster and ordered the subject out of the vehicle.
When he ordered the defendant to get out of the vehicle, what did the defendant do or say?
He said the door was messed up. He was trying to get out and just kept referring to the fact that he had to use pliers to open the door, and that he couldn't get out of the car door.
Okay. What does...
You want it on the record? His interpretation, I'll instruct the jury, this is his interpretation, then we'll be able to observe and make their own conclusions. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, so that you may understand, you have observed this video. The state is asking Agent Neese his interpretation of those facts and what he observed and what his belief is of what occurred. I'm allowing that to help give clarification to you, but you are the finders of fact in this case. You will, having watched that video, you will make your own conclusions and draw your own set of facts as to what you observed and what you heard and what you saw. So while I'm allowing the state to ask Agent Neese his clarification questions about what he's observed, keep in mind that that is simply not, you're not bound by that. That is given to you only for the help of clarification about these issues, but you are the finders of fact and you will make your own your own findings. All right, thank you. With that, state may continue.
Again, Agent Neese, watching the video, you've already testified that you observed Sergeant Baker remove his duty weapon from his holster.
That's correct.
Engaging in a felony stop.
Yes, sir.
And what did the defendant say when he was told to get out of the car?
That the door was messed up, that he couldn't get out.
Okay. What happened then?
So there's some more interaction between Sergeant Baker and Mr. Wiggins, again telling him to get out of the car, and you could tell that Sergeant Baker's intensity has come up because it now is a felony encounter. But then you also see shortly thereafter that Sergeant Baker's de-escalation comes in. Tells Mr. Wiggins, it's okay, where's your pliers at? Ask him where the pliers at. So he starts to ask him the questions about opening the door. And then he interacts with him about, okay, if the door won't open, how about the passenger side? Can you get out the passenger side?
Does Sergeant Baker reholster his weapon?
He does.
So he has his weapon drawn initially and then reholsters it.
He does.
Does he reholster his weapon before walking around the car?
He does. He's still on the driver's side of the car as he's walking to the rear driver's quarter panel and holsters his weapon at that time as he's walking around the back of the vehicle.
What happens as Sergeant Baker approaches the passenger side?
As soon as he gets up to the driver's window, he says, I think he does say, get out of the car, and then immediately shots are fired.
Describe Sergeant Baker's actions after he's initially shot.
So Sergeant Baker retreats. He has encountered a threat. He has talked about, he stated on the body cam, shots fired, officer down, just before he collapses.
What happens after he collapses?
You can hear some labored breathing as he's laying on the ground, and with the way the body cameras are worn, they're worn on the front of the body, so Sergeant Baker would have been laying on his back and the camera's pointing to the sky, and then you hear subsequently 2 more shots, and then just a few minutes later 3 final shots.
Okay. Do you see the defendant in this body camera after Sergeant Baker is on the ground?
You do.
And what did you observe in the body camera after Sergeant Baker was on the ground?
The defendant comes over and stands over him and he does something manipulating with Sergeant Baker's body, or Sergeant Baker as he's laying on the ground. He's doing something, whether with the body, that makes him move a little bit, and then he walks away from him or runs away from him.
Okay. At any point in the body camera after Sergeant Baker is on the ground, do you see the defendant holding a weapon?
Yes.
What do you see?
So you see, if you are able to slow this video down and to look at it as I have many times, you can see that the defendant has a handgun, what I would describe as a semi-automatic handgun that is in the lockback position.
And describe for us what the lockback position is.
So lockback is when it can occur in some different ways, but lockback can occur if I take my magazine out of my firearm and then I run the slide to eject the round in the chamber, and then I can physically lock it back at that point, or if I have pulled the trigger until there's no more ammunition in the firearm, it will lock back automatically.
Okay. Agent Neese, I want to provide you with what has been previously marked as Exhibit 142. Can you identify that photograph?
I can.
What is that?
This is the High Point 45 that was recovered in Stephen Wiggins' backpack. It has a magazine with 8 rounds that have been removed from the magazine, and then 1 round that was removed from the chamber. And it's normal practice for agents to render it safe so that they can package it for testing or for storage. And then it separates the round that was in the chamber to demonstrate that the firearm was loaded at the time it was recovered.
Is that weapon in that photograph, Exhibit 142, in what you say is a lockback position?
It is in a lockback position, yes, sir.
Okay. And if you could return that to the clerk, that would be great. And I would ask Mr. Etheridge to bring us up to 6 minutes and 55 seconds on the body cam, and just a still photo from the body cam. Agent, what do you see here?
The glare is difficult, but you can see what looks to be a firearm in the lockback position. You can see the bottom portion of the frame and then the barrel, because when a slide locks back, the barrel is exposed.
Okay. Agent Neese, can you identify this photograph?
I can.
And what is that?
That is a still photo from the body camera.
Okay. It's similar to what we see on the screen now, or exactly, is that a still shot?
Yes, sir.
And what can you identify in that photograph?
You can again see the outline of the frame and the lockback position of a firearm.
Okay. Move that as the next exhibit, please.
207.
And, Your Honor, I'll need a jury out at this point.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you will step out, I need to address the matter. Just wait just a moment. We want to make sure they're in the jury room before we start talking, just to avoid any issues. All right, that should be sufficient. Mr. Crouch? Is they in the room?
Yes, sir.
Judge, the state has prepared a piece of demonstrative evidence that we'd like the jury to see. It's a comparison of the Exhibit 142 with the still shot that was just moved as the last exhibit. We've prepared an overlay on a video clip, and I'd like to show it to defense and Your Honor so we can have any objections on the record.
All right, well, let's see what we've got.
And before you start, Agent Neese, can you identify what's on the screen for the record here?
Yes, that's a still shot from the body camera, and you again see the firearm at lockback and the frame at the bottom and the barrel exposed.
And this is just a still shot from the body camera video that we just watched.
Yes, sir.
All right? And Agent Neese, describe what we see now.
Now you see the high point 45 that was recovered from the backpack. It's just the photograph that is on the brown paper bag that was taken after it was recovered in the backpack.
Okay. And if you would, please walk over towards the TV screen and show the comparison between Exhibit 142, the photograph of the high point 45, to what's on the body cam still photo.
the bottom plastic frame. And as you see, you have the slide, the barrel exposed, and this same angle in the frame of that weapon at the bottom.
Thank you. Judge, those would be our questions.
Your Honor, we'd object to the demonstrative. I mean, I think the picture has to speak to for itself. Quite frankly, the picture is not clear enough, I think, to really be putting up another firearm for some kind of comparison. It's a very dark photograph. I think the jury can look at the photograph. I think the demonstrative is prejudicial. And I don't think it aids the jury. And they can look at it and make that determination for themselves. But that picture is not clear enough for there to be any defining features between that 45 and any other, semi-automatic firearm that's dark in color. So we would object.
For the record, this witness has already testified that, in his opinion, that's what he observed from the photograph that's been marked as an exhibit. The court will allow this demonstrative piece of evidence to justify or to show why the agent believes that shows what he says it shows. The jury will again be instructed that they are to draw their own conclusions. This will be omitted only to show that the witness is testifying. That's why he believes it to be that situation. All right, we're ready for the jury. I'm going to instruct the jury when they return on that issue. James, I see you for a second.
Judge.
She'll text you and let you know. I'm sorry, General Crouch. Go ahead, General Crouch.
Just while the jury's out, Judge, we've agreed to all the redactions. It's been prepared. The final version is being printed as we speak. I'm not ready for it yet, but just letting you know that before I get into the recorded interview.
Well, it's 10 to 12.
Exactly.
It may be a good point when we get it finished with this section of Agent Neese's testimony before we go to that statement and play it and have them go through that. We'll take some time to do that, so we'll just break for lunch at that point. So.
Yes, sir.
Ready for the jury, Your Honor?
We are.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, what you're about to see is a demonstration. We call it demonstrative evidence. It is not anything other than something that the state wants to introduce to help you understand something. Keep in mind, you are the deciders of the facts in this case. You are the ones who will make your own determination. This witness has testified about a certain issue, about in a certain section of the video that he believed he saw a gun in a certain condition or position. and a copy of that photograph of a still from that has already been introduced. This next step is something that I'm allowing solely for the purpose of explaining why this witness came to that conclusion. And you will again be the ones who will decide whether this is helpful or not helpful, and whether it does in fact constitute what this agent says. With that admonition, then Joel, you may proceed.
Agent, you've already testified that you observed a weapon in the defendant's hands standing over the body of Sergeant Baker. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you identified a timestamp in the actual body cam video where you observed this?
Yes, sir, there is a timestamp for it.
Is that 6 minutes and 55 seconds?
I believe that's correct.
And if I could have Mr. Etheridge bring us to 6 minutes and 55 seconds. All right. This is a still photo. Is that correct, Agent?
That's correct.
Of the 6 minute, 55 second mark of the video?
Yes, sir.
All right. And what do you observe in this still photo?
In this still photo, you can see
And
the,
why don't you go around to the screen, please?
of course, you can see Mr. Wiggins' face, hand, and then here is the firearm. The slide is locked back, the barrel is exposed, and this is the bottom portion of the frame of the weapon.
Okay, thank you. And Agent Neese, did you compare this still shot of the body cam to Exhibit 142, which we just discussed, which is the 45 in lockback position?
Yes, sir, I did.
And are they similar?
They are similar.
And did you make an overlay of this still photo with Exhibit 142?
Yes, sir.
And you can show that, Mr. Etheridge?
You can just see this is the high point 45 that was recovered out of the backpack. The photograph that was previously entered, you can see the slide, you see the barrel exposed, and you see the bottom portion of the frame with this angle here, similar to the photograph.
Thank you. And the image that came onto the screen, that's actually from Exhibit 142, which we just discussed.
I believe that's correct.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'll provide for demonstrative Exhibit 1 as the next
Right.
exhibit.
It would be marked as Exhibit 208.
Yes,
Your
sir.
Honor, may we approach for that center?
You will not be allowed to go to the jury.
Yeah, we mark demonstrative.
We'll mark it as demonstrative.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Agent Neese, as Sergeant Baker was on the ground, did you observe and hear him breathing?
Yes, I did.
Did you hear additional shots as he was breathing
Yes, I did.
and as he was laying on the ground?
Yes, sir.
We were able to hear some of the radio transmissions from Unit 500, but I now want to ask you to identify the voices that we've heard in Exhibit 12, which is Call 20 from dispatch, okay?
Yes, sir.
If you could bring that up, Mr. Etheridge.
Call 20 on Wednesday, May 30th, 2018, at 6:50 a.m. with a GMT offset of -300 minutes. Agent ID is extension is 115.
Daniel, you good? My custody. You want me to hang tight here?
It is showing confirmed, Kingston Springs.
Sorry for that. In custody, 1 male on the way to Dixie Central.
Agent Neese, that last voice we heard, do you recognize that voice?
I do.
And whose voice is that?
The defendant, Stephen Wiggins,
And what is he saying? Or what did he say?
he said, "Roger that, 1 in custody en route to Dixon Central."
And that was in response to some radio traffic?
Yes, the dispatch had confirmed. When they say confirmed out of Kingston Springs, it meant that they had confirmed that the vehicle was stolen out of Kingston Springs.
Thank you. Agent Neese, were you... Oh, let me back up. You were present when the defendant was arrested, is that correct?
I was at the command post at the hospital when he was brought to that area by THP. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Before I go any further, I'm going to move a copy of the body cam as the next exhibit.
All right.
Exhibit 209.
How quickly after his arrest did you put eyes on him or see him, observe him?
I mean, it would only been as long as it took the troopers to drive him from Stinson Road to the command post at the hospital, which was not a far distance, maybe 4 miles maybe, till they got there. And then I immediately saw him in the parking lot.
What was the condition of his clothing and backpack?
It was wet. He was wet. His clothes were wet. The backpack was wet.
Okay, thank you. And did you, on June 1st, 2018, did you interview the defendant?
I did.
Did this interview occur before or after he was medically cleared by the hospital?
This interview occurred several hours after when he was at the hospital. From his admit time to the time that the interview occurred, it was several hours.
And did you Mirandize the defendant?
I did.
And what is Miranda warning?
So Miranda warning comes from a case of Miranda versus Arizona. It just is basically what you see people say on TV. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to an attorney. If you can't afford one will be appointed for you. You have the right to have an attorney present during questioning. We normally have a form or a card we read from, and so that we get it this time and with those rights in mind.
Was this interview recorded?
It was.
Audio and video?
Audio and video, yes, sir.
Do you know the approximate length of the recording?
A couple hours or longer.
And I ask that because it's noon, and
Yes,
I'm
sir.
about to play the recording. Your Honor.
I think this would be an appropriate time for us to take our lunch break. So rather than start into a recording and stop it, we're going to go ahead and go to lunch and then come back and we'll play that recording. Ladies and gentlemen, remind you again that my admonition every time you break and every time you leave is please do not discuss this case among yourselves or allow anyone to do so. And hopefully you'll have a good lunch and we'll see you back after lunch. 1 o'clock, or is that enough time, or 1:15?
The food is not here yet.
Food's not here yet, so let's try for 1:15 just to make sure you have enough time. All right? Thank you. Sheriff, can I see you for a moment before you leave, please? We'll do this back here, but we'll stand in recess for lunch.
All right.
Recording stopped.
No.